So Split was a psychological horror thriller film written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. And when I heard this movie was made, I was initially skeptic about it because it's M. Night Shyamalan. He's just now starting to experience a resurgence with The Visit. Wasn't really interested in found footage movies. Um, but then I watched Chris Stuckman's review of it, and he praised it a lot. He actually got to see it earlier than expected, around 2016, since the movie was already finished. But in 2016, they showed it at Fantastic Fest, but it premiered it worldwide it premiered in the U.S. in January 20th. So I didn't watch it in theaters because I knew, since I'm not interested in a horror movie, I assumed, oh, this is gonna cause some people to scream or something like that, and I really did not feel like dealing with that. Like, I pretty much can stand horror thrillers nowadays. If I was a kid, I couldn't. But this story follows that these three teenagers, Claire, Marissa, I think I got the name wrong, Marcia, and outsider Casey, are kidnapped and held captive by Dennis, one of the 23 personalities present in the mind of Kevin Windlecrum, a victim of child abuse diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. And they, at the beginning, talk about dissociative identity disorder. Like, initially was used to be called in real life, it used to be called multiple personality disorder. But they, for some reason, changed it. I don't know why. But I was curious to know, like, how would this movie treat someone with multiple personality disorder, or and whatnot. Okay, like, everything was all right. Like, but for some reason I felt mixed about regarding the quote twist. There were actually two twists in this movie, which I'll talk about in a moment. But I did enjoy this movie. James McAvoy was awesome in it. Like, I could generally feel like, yeah, he has multiple personalities. I could buy that. But you see, Kevin Windlecrum is, like, suppressed, and, like, he doesn't know that he's been under control of someone named, of his personality, Dennis, and he has a total of 24 different personalities. The 24th one is okay, I'll get to that in a moment. But we also get our trademark M. Night Shyamalan twist. Well, not a twist, cameo as Jay, a security guard in Dr. Flincher's apartment building. And also, okay, we don't know what happens to the dad who, when he's knocked out. Is he knocked out? Is he killed? Yeah, they don't really talk about what happened to the father. Um, but Casey experiences flashbacks of being sexually molested as a young child by her uncle. That's okay. Disturbing. Even so much that she pulled a gun on him. But the 24 personality, I generally did not know how to feel about this. Like, they have said that it could change your ability both physically and psychologically. Like, the psychological part I get, but the physical part, yeah, like, eventually, like, one develops OCD, one has voyeurs, sorry, like, obsessive compulsive disorder, and two of these personalities, Dennis and Patricia, worship an entity called the Beast, a rumored 24th personality. And the three girls realize it's Kevin's nature when they meet Patricia, who just is as a woman, and we get the lineup, "He's not well," and I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be an icon. That could be a very creepy moment, especially when you see a man dressed up as a woman and he believes he's a woman, in terms of suffering from a mental disorder. But now, like, it is already out on Blu-ray. You can check it out. But the reason why I'm not going into detail about this movie a lot is because, well, you probably would have seen the movie by now. But the twist, for those who don't know, spoilers. Okay, the twist is that the Beast somehow is the 24th personality, and apparently he is able to show his veins. He's able to show give Kevin superhuman speed, superhuman strength, and endurance, and able to crawl on walls. And I'm like, yeah, I'm no doctor expert, but I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. Now, if the movie had ended the way it did with 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 the personalities conversing and they okay, like Dennis, Patricia, and Hedwig exert collective control over Kevin's body and admire the power of the Beast and their plans to change the world and remove the impure. Basically, they say that concluding that troubled people are exceptional and they are the pure, whereas those who have never suffered are the impure. Oh, okay. The Beast spares Casey's life and leaves. Casey is rescued by one of Kevin's co-workers and learns that she was being held underneath the Philadelphia Zoo, where Kevin worked and lived. Um, she looks like she's about to reveal whether or not her uncle is abusive towards her, and we don't get a response. We might learn about this in the sequel if there is one. I'll talk about the sequel announcement in another video. But with these three personalities being the main dominant force of Kevin's body and their plans to change the world. Like initially, the original ending had Kevin on top of a building overlooking a school, and it ends on an ominous note like, "Oh, is he gonna attack the school? Like, yeah, is he gonna attack the school? Kidnap all these children?" Like that ended on a dark note. It's on the Blu-ray and DVD, I believe. I know it's on the Blu-ray where they show the alternative ending. However, if the movie had ended with that cliffhanger where where the personalities are conversing in this secret hideout, um, then I would probably be mixed about it. But there was one more twist added to the movie that really made everything make sense because wait, how does the dissociative identity disorder have powers? Like that never happens in real life. You see, we go to a diner. Patrons are listening to the media coverage of Kevin's crimes, for which he has been nicknamed the Horde, and one of the patrons noticed the similarity between Kevin, and then they say this: a terrorist who uses a wheelchair and was arrested 15 years prior. Does that not sound kind of familiar? And the man sitting next to her is revealed to be an older David Dunn from Unbreakable, who reminds the patron that the terrorist's name was Mr. Glass. And from that one scene, that would make everything make sense to me. Like some people were mixed about this movie in terms of the whole dissociative identity disorder and how it's stereotypical of like, oh, it's just gonna make people with those illnesses look even worse pictured by people. But yeah, when I saw this part, when this scene showed, everything fell into place for me. Because in the Unbreakable universe, there are such a thing as superpowers, that except they're more portrayed in a more realistic way, and like they don't explain where they come from. But the personality disorder having superhuman abilities, yeah, that actually makes sense to me. So it's curious as to know, this is the sequel to Unbreakable, you could say, but it's its own story. And it's a supervillain origin story, which is a rarity nowadays, I think. So, yeah, and I was generally amazed, like, oh wow, like, it turns out that they wanted to keep, that M. Night Shyamalan kept this secret, like, he cut that out, and he went ahead and put that in later on, and I'm like, wow, no, this actually makes everything kind of fall into place for me. So, yeah, everything fell into place for me on this when we saw David Dunn and tying in Unbreakable and Split. But yeah, I keep thinking like Yeah, I still don't know about the whole dissociative identity disorder. I know for a fact that they don't give you superhuman abilities. But yeah, what like there was apparently during the production of this, Shyamalan had conceived the idea of split years before he actually wrote the screenplay. He explained, in this case, I had written a character a while ago. I had written out of a few scenes, so I even had dialogue written out, which is really unusual for me. It sat there for a long time. I really don't have a clear reason why I didn't pull the trigger earlier, but this felt like the perfect time to do it, and with the type of movies I'm doing now and the type of tones I'm interested in, humor and suspense. And the character of Kevin Windlecrum, had been one of the early drafts of Shyamalan's Unbreakable, but he had pulled the character out, stating that there was a balancing issue at the time. With Split, he brought in some of the scenes he had written for Unbreakable around Kevin. The film ends with the appearance of Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, from Unbreakable, who makes a comment in reference to the previous film, placing Unbreakable and Split in the same universe. So, yeah, Shyamalan had requested permission to incorporate the character from Walt Disney Studios, which had produced Unbreakable, and Shyamalan was keeping this whole thing a secret, like removing the final scene from the film for test audiences. Test audience. So, yeah, I was like, okay, everything makes sense now. Why there's such a thing as dissociative identity disorder having powers for some reason. That actually makes sense. So they're not treating this as a super realistic movie, even though it sort of felt realistic at times. But yeah, the power part, that actually makes sense to me now because, oh, it's set in the Unbreakable universe where powers are real, superheroes can exist. So, if they do make the sequel, which I will talk about the announcement in another video, it's going to be interesting regarding what's going to go down with that. Like I said, I don't know what else to say, but this Unbreakable universe they're building, it's basically this big elaborate comic book movie that M. Night Shyamalan created, and he didn't even make a comic book out of it. He just went up straight and made a movie. So, Unbreakable to me is very unique to me. Like I've talked about this in a video about Unbreakable, why I like it so much. It's different from the usual comic book movies, superhero movies, and it just really stands out most to me. Like the MCU, while good, set the tone for the whole cinematic universe. If Unbreakable was made today, I'm pretty certain it would have gotten a much bigger reception in terms of critical response, especially in the money department. Like, I'm pretty sure Disney would have then tried to incorporate the Unbreakable universe and set their own cinematic universe for it, which really probably would be a bad idea since this is a trilogy from what I've heard. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting about this movie being so good. It grossed $274 million off of a $9 million budget. And Shyamalan looks like he's back. Like, I can't wait what's going to happen on that. So, with the whole Shyamalan renaissance, I'm curious to know, can he make the next movie good, just as great or better? But like I said, I'll talk about that in the next video. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate and stay tuned for more.